In Sumer, laws were generally issued by a council of notables, which could include priests, elders, or kings. These laws were not abstract or philosophical in nature. Unlike modern legal documents such as the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence, Sumerian laws did not begin with elaborate preambles or statements of principle. Instead, they were practical and direct. Laws typically followed a simple formula: do this, do not do that, and if you violate the rule, this is the punishment. Many Sumerian laws were harsh by modern standards. Numerous offenses carried severe penalties, including death. When we examine these laws, we can see evidence of social struggle within Sumerian society. Laws often appear designed to prevent the wealthy and powerful from exploiting the poor and vulnerable. Although the surviving evidence allows us to sense social tension within Sumerian society, we cannot fully reconstruct these conflicts in detail, largely because the historical record is limited. One important feature of Sumerian law is that laws were publicly posted. This practice suggests that law was not meant to apply only to elites. Instead, it created the idea that everyone, regardless of status, was subject to the law. This represents an early step toward the concept of rule of law, rather than rule by personal whim. Another vital component of Sumerian culture is literature. The most important literary work to emerge from ancient Mesopotamia is the Epic of Gilgamesh. The story itself dates back as far as 2500 BCE, although the oldest surviving written version comes from around 800 BCE. To understand this work, we must first understand what historians mean by an epic. Epics are usually long poems, though a few are written in prose. They are conceived on a grand scale, involving gods, heroes, and events of great significance. Epics deal with universal themes using elevated language, and they are meant to be timeless. When we read works like the Iliad, the Odyssey, the Aeneid, or the Epic of Gilgamesh, we can still identify with the characters and their struggles because the issues they face are not unique to any one civilization, they are human issues. Sumer's greatest epic, the Epic of Gilgamesh, centers on the friendship between Gilgamesh and Enkidu. Gilgamesh is the powerful king of Uruk, while Enkidu represents the natural man living among animals and sharing their world. He runs with them, drinks from the same water sources, and exists outside civilization. In the story, Gilgamesh's palace sends a royal prostitute to seduce Enkidu. Once this occurs, the animals no longer accept him. He is cut off from the natural world and drawn into human society. This episode echoes later stories from the same region, most famously the biblical story of Eve. Abandoned by the animals, Enkidu enters Uruk, where he eventually befriends Gilgamesh. Together, they experience great adventures. However, Enkidu eventually becomes ill and dies. His death introduces the central theme of the epic, human mortality. You are born, you live, and you die. Grief-stricken, Gilgamesh sets out to defeat death itself. He searches for immortality and even acquires a plant that can grant eternal life. Yet at the last moment, a snake steals the plant, depriving him of immortality, a moment that again recalls later biblical imagery. Gilgamesh ultimately learns that physical immortality is impossible. The only form of immortality available to humans is to be remembered by future generations. This idea appears again in later literature. Consider Achilles in the Iliad. Achilles knows that if he fights in the Trojan War, he will die young but be remembered forever. If he refuses to fight, he will live a long life but fade into obscurity. Gilgamesh faces the same dilemma and reaches the same conclusion. Lasting fame is the closest humans can come to immortality. Sumerian literature did not end with Gilgamesh. One of the most remarkable figures of the period was Enheduanna, the daughter of Sargon of Akkad, who is recognized as the first known named author in history and the earliest known woman poet. Sumerian culture also made lasting contributions to science and mathematics. The Sumerians developed both the decimal and sexagesimal base 60 systems. If you have ever wondered why there are 60 seconds in a minute or 60 minutes in an hour, you can thank the Sumerians. Their mathematical innovations later influenced Greek science and, through it, much of Western intellectual tradition.